Greetings, boys and girls and teachers from Spring Hill Elementary School in Fayetteville, Georgia. I'm Paul Otto, and I'm happy to be with you here today to participate in your reading program. I'm also a member of the City Council, and so it's with great pleasure that I take this time to be with you today. I'm going to make a selection of a story. It's an old story. You may have heard it, maybe not, but the name of the tale is The Emperor's New Clothes, and it's by famed author Hans Christian Andersen. And Noemi's going to get it for me out of our library here. Oh, thank you, Noemi. This is the Book of Knowledge from which I will read, and the story, The Emperor's New Clothes, is right here. The Emperor's New Clothes by Hans Christian Andersen. Many years ago, there lived an emperor who thought so much of new clothes that he spent all his money on them. He didn't care that his soldiers didn't like him to do this. He didn't go to the theater. He didn't go to the park. He only drove around to show off his new clothes. He had a coat for every hour of the day. They usually say of the king, he is in the council chamber, but in the emperor's case, they said he's in the clothes closet. He lived in a happy city, and many strangers came to visit. It was among these one day that there came two rogues who set themselves up as weavers. They said they knew how to weave the most beautiful clothes imaginable. Not only were the colors and patterns used remarkably beautiful, but the clothes made from these materials could not be seen by anyone who was unfit for the office he held or was too stupid to not see them. These would be fine clothes, thought the emperor. If I wore those clothes, I could find out what men in my empire were not fit for the places they held. I could tell the clever men from the dunces. I must have some new clothes woven for me at once. So he gave the two rogues money that they might begin their work. The rogues immediately put up two looms and pretended to be working, but there was nothing at all on the looms. They called for the finest silks and the brightest gold, but this they put into their pockets. At the empty looms, they worked steadily until late into the night. I should like to know how the weavers are getting on with my clothes, thought the emperor. But he felt a little uneasy when he thought that anyone who was too stupid or was not fit for his office would be unable to see the cloth. Of course, he had no fears for himself. But he still thought he might send someone else first, just to see how matters stood, and to bring him a report. I will send my faithful old minister to the weavers, thought the emperor. He can see how the stuff looks, and he's a clever man, and no one is so careful in fulfilling duties as he is. So the good old minister went into the room where the two rogues sat working at the empty looms. Mercy on us, thought the old minister, opening his eyes wide. I can't see a thing. But he didn't want to say anything. Both the rascals begged him to be good enough to step a little nearer. They pointed to the empty looms and asked if he didn't think the pattern and the coloring was wonderful. The poor old minister stared and stared as hard as he could, but he couldn't see anything, for of course there was nothing to see. Mercy, he said to himself, is it possible I am a dunce? I never thought so. Certainly no one must know it. Am I unfit for office? It will never do to say that I can't see the cloth. Well, sir, do you say nothing of it? Asked one of the rogues, while he pretended to weave busily. Oh, it is beautiful, charming, said the old minister, peering through his spectacles. What a fine pattern and what wonderful colors. I shall tell the emperor that I am very much pleased with it. We are glad to hear you say so, answered the two swindlers. Then they named all the colors in the invisible cloth upon the looms and described the pattern. The old minister listened intently so that he could repeat all that was said to the emperor. The rogues now began to demand more money, more silk, and more gold thread in order to proceed with the weaving. All of this, of course, went into their pockets. Not a single strand was ever put on the empty looms at which they went on working. The emperor soon sent another faithful friend to see how soon the new clothes would be ready, but he fared no better than the minister. He looked and looked and looked, but to his consternation he saw nothing but the empty looms. Isn't it a pretty piece of cloth? Asked both the rogues, showing and explaining the handsome pattern which the minister could not see because it was not there. I am not stupid, thought the man. It must be that I am not worthy of my good position. This is indeed strange, but I must not let it be known. So he praised the cloth he did not see and approved the color and design that were not there. And to the emperor he said, it is charming. Soon everybody in town was talking about the wonderful cloth that was being woven for the emperor, and the emperor began to think that he would like to see it while it was still on the looms. Accompanied by a number of his friends, among whom were two faithful officers who had already beheld the imaginary cloth, he went to visit the two men who were weaving, might and main, without any fiber and without any thread. "Isn't it splendid?" cried the two statesmen who had already been there and who thought the others would see something upon the empty looms. "Look, your majesty, what colors, what a design!" And they described the cloth that was not there. "What's this?" thought the emperor. "I see nothing at all. Am I a dunce? Am I not fit to be emperor? That would be the worst thing that could happen to me if it were true," but he didn't say that out loud. "Oh, it's very pretty," said the emperor. "It meets my highest approval." He nodded his head happily and stared at the empty looms. Never would he say that he couldn't see anything. His friends too gazed and gazed, but saw no more than the others. Yet they all cried out, "It is beautiful," and advised the emperor to wear a suit made of this material in the great procession that was to take place. "It is magnificent, gorgeous," was the cry that went from mouth to mouth. The emperor gave each of the rogues a royal ribbon to wear in his buttonhole and called them the imperial court weavers. The rogues were up at night all that night before the morning of the procession. They kept more than 16 candles burning. The people could see them hard at work, pretending to complete the new clothes for the emperor. They took yards and yards down from the empty looms. They cut stuff. They made cuts in the air with big scissors. They sewed with needles and thread. And at last they said, "Your clothes are ready, your majesty." The emperor himself, with his grandest courtiers, went to put on the new suit. "See," said the rogues, lifting their arms as if holding something. "Here are the trousers. Here is the coat. Here is the cape. It is as light as a spider's web. One might think one had nothing on, but that is just the beauty of it." "Very nice," said the courtiers, but they could see nothing, for there was nothing to see. "Will your imperial majesty be graciously pleased to take off your clothes?" asked the rogue, "so that we may put the new ones on before this long mirror." But the emperor took off all his own clothes, and the two rogues pretended to put on each new garment as it was ready. They wrapped him about and tied him up and buttoned. The emperor turned round and round before the mirror. "How well his majesty looks in his new clothes," said the people. "How becoming they are! What a pattern, what colors! It is a beautiful costume." "They are waiting outside with canopy, which is to be carried over your majesty in the procession," said the master of ceremonies. "I am ready," said the emperor. "Don't the clothes fit well?" he asked, giving a last glance into the mirror as though it were looking at his all-new finery. The men who were to carry the train of the emperor's cloak stooped down to the floor as if picking up the train, and then held it high in the air. They didn't dare let it be known that they could see nothing. So the emperor marched along under the bright canopy. Everybody in the streets and the windows cried out, "How beautiful the emperor's new clothes are! What a fine train! And they fit to perfection." No one would let it be known that they could see nothing, for that would have proved that they were unfit for office, or that they were very stupid. None of the emperor's clothes had ever been as successful as these. "But he has nothing on," said a little boy. "Just listen to the innocent," said his father. But one person whispered to another, "What the child has said, he has nothing on. A child has said he has nothing on." "But he has nothing on," at last cried all the people. The emperor writhed, for he knew that this was true, but he realized it would never do to stop the procession. So he held himself prouder than ever, and the chamberlains carried his invisible train. And that, my friends, is the end of the story of the emperor's new clothes. There is a moral in there. I want you to think about it. And again, I thank you for the opportunity to be reading to you today. Bye-bye.